Hello, cooks and professor. I am Carol Povigna.
And Nahuel Buracco.
And we are recording this video from the Pollenzo Food Lab of the University of Gastronomic Sciences. Today we are going to see a little bit more in depth how to organize and set up the before, the during and the after of a cooking lesson that talk about the applied gastronomic sciences. So let's start from the setting and the environment. First of all, the backstage and the area in which you're going to record should be clean, not too crowded of things, and you should provide some elements that allow the students to feel comfortable and at home. Keep care especially of the stainless steel component. Then you should consider that the equipment, so you should have a camera that is recording you and maybe also an action camera that is able to go more in depth and focus on specific action and that are occurring on the pen. Then you should have a nice microphone that is hidden, that could go in your pocket and at the same time that allowed you to move and to cook easily without creating any noise. The natural light should be guaranteed, so consider what period of the day is better for the recording. For us, for example, is during the morning, because after the sun goes down and you start to have some problem with the shadow. At the same time, you should guarantee that is present a nice light that reflect the possible shadow and avoid the possible shadow. Going to the table and to the setting, everything should be quite clean and organized in order to show directly to the students what they will need. Of course, you will provide a list before the lesson, but at the same time, you should guarantee that they can understand easily what they are managing with. In here, we have a kind of basic position. So always remember to have a label and a pen to put the date and the name of the preparation that the students are doing and that we are doing, and a container for the trash. It's really important to remember to the student that it's important to divide the trash in between the organic, the plastic, the paper, and so on. Some paper, a cutting board, and the knives that they have also in the knives bag. Some bowl, that could be really useful to guarantee that everything is clean and in order. And then we can go to the topic of the lesson that you're going to see also after. We will talk about emulsion, so we just have the things that we will need. So an induction for heating up our ingredients and planetary mixer, an hand blender, but at the same time, if the students maybe at home don't have the possibility to have a planetary mixer, it's enough to have a whisk. Considering all the equipment, always analyze if it's possible for them to make it more easy. So always show what is the possibility at home to replicate the same process that you are doing. Last but not least, we can have a recorded peel as the one that we are going to show you, or you can have an online session. For both, but especially for the streaming lesson, it's important to have a position in which is placed a computer that allows to interact with the students. So being in two professors is possible that one is keeping going on with the lesson and the other one is interacting with the students and checking their preparation at home with the camera. What about the ingredients?
So moving to the ingredients, as for the tools and for the machineries, we need to give to the students a shopping list before. A shopping list that have to be feasible for the students, so nothing strange, nothing that need that are too expensive. So in this case, for this lesson, we will need some ingredients to going through the emulsion. So we just need to give to the students some suggestion on different to provide in their house different kind of oil, different kind of vinegar, or different kind of emulsifier as eggs, or in this case also cellulose, and we will see in the lesson that we will do. So that will allow us to communicate to the students, preparing a kind of syllabus before, preparing the shopping list with some grams and quantity of the ingredients that are not too many, because they just need to do some experimentation, so small amount, giving the possibility to find out other ingredients that work at the same way, also to be more easy for them to find it. So the last thing, before to start to cook, we just need to give the suggestion to the student to be every time ready to cook in a professional way. So wearing white jackets or a nice apron, and having also the torsion in order to be able to cook in a safe way. So now we will go through recorded pills about emulsion in this case, and then we will see also how we developed this flow in order to meta-analyze what every time we have to do to plan a digital lesson. Welcome again, students, in this new lesson about state of matter and macro and micromolecules in cuisine. So we remember to you always the fact that science applied to the kitchen needed a focus on theory and on practice. So on the platform you can find a lot of topic to deepen also the macro and micromolecules in cuisine, also to have a scientific knowledge that allow to you and to us also to dialogue with ingredients and process. So science applied to the kitchen allow to us as cook to control and check all the processes in order to be able to change the process according to new ingredients, new technology, and new plates and recipes. So today we will focus on state of matter, as we said, and this is the first lesson of 3 lessons. Today we will speak about emulsion, and in the next 2 we will speak about gels and foam. Talking about emulsion, we need to understand the fact that an emulsion is a mix of water and oil kept together by a third element, an emulsifier. Why we need this emulsifier? Because if we use just water and oil, just by a simple experiment, we can see that cannot stay together. So water and oil in touch will find every time a way to avoid the contact. In this case, you can see water at the bottom and oil at the top. So what we need in this mixture is a third element, as we said, an emulsifier. And in chemistry and in cuisine, we can base on different kind of emulsifier. Emulsifier as protein, fat, or cellulose, carbs. So protein as the one that you can find in broth, so in stock that are reduced, in which are contained a lot of protein as collagen, or fat as the one that you can find in the egg yolk, so lecithin, that you can find in egg yolk, but also in other ingredients as soy milk or chocolate, or also pure lecithin that you can buy directly in some shops. The last one is the cellulose, a carb, that work as an emulsifier. You can find cellulose in vegetables as broccoli, pumpkin, or celeriac, so vegetables that are full of starch and cellulose. These 3 are kind of emulsifier that you can use to start to plan your emulsion. The other 2 elements, as we said, are oil and water. Oil needed oil that are liquid at room temperature, so different types of oil are super fine, and also water can be juices of vegetable, fruit, or vinegars. So these 3 are the ingredients that you need to have to start our practical lesson. So be sure to have one of the 3 ingredients for water, emulsifier, and oil. The next also will be to be sure to have all the tools that we put on the list, and be ready because we will move through the practical lesson seeing how we can produce our own mayonnaise.
We are ready. So we listed in between the equipment an hand blender, but remember that for an emulsion, we need an emulsifier, and the second thing that is really important is the energy, the effort that we put in cutting the drops of the water and of the fat in order to enlarge the surface of contact. They tend to reduce to the minimum, but we want to force them to stay in touch, to stay in contact, and to allow the emulsifier to work at the interface. So you can use a fork as the grandma just to cut the drops, or even two forks working more and having more knives that are cutting, a whisk, or a blade that provide energy through electricity. We are going to start from our egg, so doing a really simple mayonnaise. In the egg, we have both the white, in which are contained the proteins, and the yolk, as Nawel were saying, that contains the phospholipids and the lecithin. So we are going to start with these, and yes, it's a little bit too far. We start with a little bit of water and our emulsifier. We're going to add some vinegar in our case, because we in Piedmont are really fan of vinegar in all the shapes, and a pinch of salt. The first action is to spread properly our emulsifier. And then we can start adding our oil. The oil should be added little by little according to the energy that we are providing. So if we if we have a really powerful hand blender or food processor, we can even add all the oil at once. As you can see right now, the way in which our mixture reflects the light already changed. This means that we are already at the stage of a stable emulsion. So we could start from a mixture in which water and oil are already together, and we can use these to season a salad, for example. Then, keeping working and adding the oil, we will go through different states, going more in the direction of solid. Let's go. So once that we are satisfied about the texture and the consistency of our mayonnaise or of our emulsion, we could see that starting from two components that were not miscible, so they tend to stay separate, we have something with a completely new consistency that tends to be solid, so stay separate, and in which the water is not splitted. Remember that we could start from something that is more liquid and go to something more solid. These will stay in here. These will be transferred in a container, and we will add a label with the date. Could stay in the fridge for maximum 5 days, but you can use these for realize, for example, an Italian salad or a Russian salad or a shuba that is just a mixture of vegetables with a mayonnaise. You can add even other seasonings, so herbs or spices. You can use it in a sandwich and so on. So remember not to waste the food that you have produced. Right now we are going to see another emulsion starting from an ingredient that contains naturally lecithin. So we have different ingredients that are naturally emulsion. So if we think to milk, if you think to cream, or to chocolate, we could consider the fact that they are at a specific stage, a state of physical state, but they contain both water and fat. In chocolate, we have lecithin and we have cocoa butter. What happens if we are going to add some water? So let's melt our chocolate. So we will have our fat present. So we are going to have our fat and our emulsifier. And we could add water. Yes. So gently melt the chocolate. Remember that in here we are using an induction, but at home, if you have the fire, to better control the heat, it's better to cook it bain-marie, as in the model in here. We could start to add some drops of water. And in the list, you have a chocolate with the 70%. So this means that with a chocolate with the 70%, we could incorporate and add up to 70% of water. In here we have 250 grams of chocolate, and we will add 170 grams of water. The concept of water, in this case, is just a simple water, but you could imagine that we could replace the water with an infusion, with a tea, with a juice, with even some wine, for example, that is water-based, and so on. So characterize a lot our chocolate and our recipe. This is a nice starting point for a glaze. This is a nice starting point for covering a cake. Or if we add all the water, we could use it as a sauce at the bottom of the plate, or we could use it as a not chocolate in the cup, keeping everything not with the starch, as we will see in the next lesson, but through the emulsion. How we are gonna transform these in something solid while cutting? So following the principle that we introduced with the mayonnaise, so cutting the drops, and for doing this we could use a whisk again, or if we have the possibility to have a planetary mixer, so a motor and energy, we could use the planetary mixer with the whisk to just cut the molecules. We move to the bowl of the planetary mixer, and then while we start to cut the drops, we will finish to incorporate all our water. So in here we have our first stage in change of consistency, and we reach out like the consistency of a really thick sauce. As you can see in here, we have some volume, and if we divide, the water is not separated from the chocolate. So everything is really shiny, and this, if we keep working it, could become a kind of mousse, even if it's not correct to call it mousse. We will see it in the next lesson about foam that is completely lactose-free, or we can use it as a sauce together with other ingredients for our dessert or for our plate. Why not?
So what's next? So remember that in the next 2 days we will have a session of question and answers. So it will be the moment in which if you have any doubts, please ask. And instead, for the next week, we give you an homework. So be ready, because next week you will have to present your own emulsion. So choose your 3 ingredients and present to us with photos and videos how you make it and the final result. Plus, we ask you to work in groups, so a group made by 3 of you. And we ask to find out 3 different preparation and recipe in which you think that there are some emulsions inside. And please take care to analyze the recipe with a scientific lens in order to identify which are the emulsifier, which are the fat, and which are the water.
So let's see you in 2 days. Bye, guys.
Hello, teachers and cooks. In this very last session, we want to meta-analyze what we just saw in practice, and we want to see what's the method when it comes to work in the kitchen. So we are referring to the method of the gastronomic sciences applied to kitchen. This is very important to have in mind, because even before starting to set our position or to start chopping something or to make an emulsion, as we just saw, it's very important to have in mind which are the subjects we are referring to. Knowing this, we will be able to kind of understand in which part of the production chain we are now operating. In the previous section, we talked about the chemistry and the physics behind our kitchen actions. But these are just two of the subjects which are involved in the gastronomic sciences method. As we want to be seen right now, we also can consider many other subjects. According to the art science, we also have microbiology. But according to human sciences, the kitchen action also involves philosophy, history, and sociology, and way more than this. Once that we understand which is the method that we can use, and once that we understand that our action refers to a lot of subjects at the same time, we can now consider which are the ways to kind of engage when it comes to digitalize this kind of session. It's very important to engage students while referring to a mayonnaise or to an animation. Again, also in this case, referring to make the students make a lot of links among the subjects. In a recorded lesson, it's important to make it very simple, but at the same time to make the concept which is behind the cooking process very clear, so that students at home can reply and can replicate the process itself according both to the raw material and to the utensils that they have at home. At the same time, it's very important to assign homeworks which have to be replicable, and that could be individual, but also they could be teamwork. In this perspective, a teamwork also allows people to take the responsibility of a small part of the task. The teamwork and the homework phase is crucial and allows us to understand two big things. The first one is to see to verify whether students understood which is the theory, and if they were able to go from the theory to the practice. And the second is also is more inferred to the teacher themselves to get whether the process that they just show is just something that is doable into a professional or into a school environment, or could also be replicable into a home environment. How do we know this? Well, it's very important using this medium that a session of question and answer is dedicated at the end of every lesson. Because in this way, we can have a dialogue with the students and to understand whether the lesson was effective. And finally, considering how digitalization of lesson will be more and more present in our future, it's important to have a dialogue among students, teachers, and cooks in order to share the criticality, but also to share the good best practice that we can have while doing online lesson.